Welcome in to the Gaming Discourse. I am Tyler Frater alongside Richard Day the Cruz.
Good to be back. I don't know how to act, apparently.
And Chief Engineer Lieutenant Commander Connor Frater.
You're not the only one, I guess.
Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at the Gaming Discourse. Go to our YouTube channel, YouTube/Gaming Discourse, where we post new videos. Working on a couple new videos right now. We'll have lots of reviews coming up in the next few months because there's a bunch of games that I'm really excited to review. Ooh. And not just big ones, but little ones too. You can call them
from nobodies,
little bits. But like Chernobylite's coming out next month, I think. I'm really excited for that. Claire de Lune I'm working on right now. So lots of stuff. It is June 24th, 2021. And we do have news, but before that, let's get into I have played some games. So unlike previous weeks where it's like I could tell you guys about the bolt action minis I built, I can actually tell you guys about video games.
Yeah.
So why don't you go first, Richard, with what you've been playing?
I've been playing Ratchet Clank. Ratchet Clank Rift Apart on PS5. And I beat it last night. And it's been like 2 weeks since its release, I think.
Okay.
Starting tomorrow.
That was my phone. I apologize. Just tossing phones around.
And I don't know where to start with Ratchet Clank because I really like it. It's an excellent game. It's gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. You're playing essentially a Pixar movie, which is awesome. The voice acting is absolutely stellar, and the gameplay is top notch. I think the problem for me was that just like when I talked about Luigi's Mansion a year and a half ago, I never played the earlier ones. And so I don't necessarily have like a really big connection with Ratchet and Clank, although I was like of the age when I probably should have played that in the PS2 era. I just never got around to it, but it's always been a game that I've been interested in. I played a little bit of the PS3 games, but not enough to really like to beat them. Is like maybe half an hour. I played. So I played this one, and the first half of the game, although I was recognizing its stellar gameplay and graphics and whatnot, I kind of just felt like I was playing a game, like a video game. I wasn't getting any excitement from it, and I wasn't like I would if I were playing like Ghost of Tsushima. Like I just had like this urge to keep going and keep like finding things. Ratchet and Clank was kind of like a video game in the purest sense of the form. You're just kind of playing it, and I wasn't really getting any. I don't want to say I wasn't getting enjoyment out of it, but I was very neutral playing it.
Okay.
The last half of the game was when I started to get really, really pumped and really into it because there are a lot of really awesome showpieces, and it's kind of hitting me. We're still kind of figuring out what the PS5 can do, the PS5, Xbox Series X, and all that can do. As far as like, is it just better graphics or what else is there? And I can tell you with Ratchet and Clank, there is way too much stuff happening on screen at once. And the game is still running like flawless, 60 frames a second. Like when you're killing enemies, they're dropping like bolts, your collectibles, like your currency. They're dropping bolts, whatever weapon you're using. And there's 20 different weapons that all do wildly different things, very inventive. And all these enemies are popping out of portals that are just like appearing in the sky. It's insane how much is going on, and there is no dips in like the gameplay or frame rate or graphics or anything. It's incredibly impressive, but along with that and the showpieces, I really ended up enjoying Ratchet and Clank. I wouldn't put it like as a front runner for like my game of the year at all. But it's definitely in the top games I've played this year. I loved all the characters. Rivet had a rocky start for me, the new female Lombax character. She had a rocky start for me because it was a very stereotypical, she was a bit of a dense character at first. She grew up in a world where like robots kind of like took over, and she doesn't trust anybody. So when she encounters Clank, because it's kind of like a reversed role game, she encounters Clank and she runs with him. Clank is like telling her like, hey, we're from a different dimension. Like all these portals are like ruining the universes and stuff. And she's just over there like, oh yeah, whatever, man. Like, that's you're crazy. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, you know, she's like, oh, you're going to tell me this is a dimension too? Like she's standing there, she's actively using dimension things. And she's like, yeah, whatever, guy. And it's like, okay, well, like, come on. You I kind of hate when characters like do that. Yeah. And then there comes a point to where she's like, oh, you actually are telling the truth. And then she.
And Clay's like, it's about damn time.
Yeah, but at first it was I love the villain, the main villains. But it was a really cool game and a good experience. I'm playing a little bit of New Game Plus to get the final trophy, which is I didn't even try to get all of the trophies, and I just did. Mm-hmm. So it was like, oh, okay, great. But that's all I've been playing besides more Apex Legends. I don't know what I'm gonna dip into next, but I know I do have a lot on the plate. It's just a matter of any, mini, miny, mo.
So did you hit a wall in Returnal?
No, I didn't. It's just Ratchet. Yeah, the wall was Ratchet and Clank.
Okay.
No. Oh man, Returnal. I think the last time I talked about Returnal was when I finally had a breakthrough, when I wasn't like progressing in so long, and I finally had a breakthrough, and that's when Ratchet and Clank came out and other stuff was going on. So I moved over to Ratchet and Clank. But because I knew there are things with Returnal, I know it's a game that I'm not going to be able to beat very quickly or very easily, but like something like Ratchet and Clank, I can knock it out in 10, 15 hours maybe, and then go to the next thing. So yeah, you know what? Thanks for saying that, because I have to go back to Returnal. And it sucks because there's a laundry list, because it's like before Returnal, it's like I haven't finished Hades, and I got to finish Hades. I haven't finished other, before after Returnal, it was Resident Evil 8, which I beat Resident Evil 8.
Yes, you did.
So I went back to Returnal, and Ratchet and Clank came out. So now I got to go back to Returnal, and I'm moving backwards in my. Oh my god! Hey. So I'm moving backwards through my backlog. I guess that's what the name suggests.
Yeah.
So yeah, and of course, all the E3 stuff that I wish I talked about last week, but didn't. Like that's coming out that I'm gonna have on my list as well.
This is our podcast. You can talk about E3 stuff right now if you want.
It was underwhelming.
We set the rules. No one else. Oh, really? Underwhelming, huh?
Underwhelming in a lot of aspects. There wasn't like a lot of crazy stuff that I was excited for, but I think that I can just simply point to COVID, like, and that's it. Like, if you look at like what Microsoft showed, not necessarily Nintendo, but Microsoft particularly, actually, and everyone else, like there was drastically less things that they showed than they have any other year, or at least the last couple of years, in my opinion. It's either that or it was just spread between all the newcomers for E3, which you had Wholesome Game Show, you had the PC Game Show, Devolver Digital did their own thing.
You had a bunch.
IGN did their own thing.
Guerrilla
of course, kind of funny games did their own thing.
Yeah, with
all these different games. So maybe it was just spread too thin, but. I love the way that the Halo multiplayer looks. I think Halo multiplayer looks freaking cool, and I can't wait to play that. Of course, I want to see more single player stuff, but I dig the new Cortana. Well, quote unquote. Yeah. The new AI. That's better. New AI.
I'm really interested in. I'm really fascinated to see with how Halo Infinite is written, because Halo's fallen into a trap. And I think this may be somewhat of an unpopular opinion in some ways, but I think Halo's fallen into the trap that the game feels like it needs to include the entire extended universe, into every single, and that muddies the story and it muddies the narrative. I hated Halo 5 for a lot of reasons, and one of the reasons was that,
Master Chief all of a sudden has a crew of Spartans with him.
And it's like, people that read the books, it's exciting for them.
Yeah.
But for me, I had no idea who these people were, and it was so strange at the end of Halo 4 to see the person that I knew as the Master Chief's confidant sacrifice herself, and then in Halo 5, it's but don't worry about it. He's got these people too.
Yeah.
Which I really didn't like at all.
Yeah.
So much like whatever the last Star Wars movie was called, Rise of Skywalker or whatever.
There you
go. It's like you had a really intriguing beginning to a trilogy. Some things were good, some things were bad, but overall, it was really interesting. Then the sequel was just horrible on multiple levels, and then the third one has to like fix things while trying to figure out how to fit the first part of that trilogy in, or maybe it just does away with all of that and does its own thing, maybe on its own Halo. So anyway,
too many cooks without talking to each other.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of I don't know. I feel like a lot of franchises have sort of
they do.
Big franchises have gone that direction.
Yeah, and that's what sucks. I had a discussion today at work where I kind of had this notion where franchises need to end, and fan bases are an unfortunate part of that. And I'm sorry, Tyler, I used Splinter Cell as an example. Because although Splinter Cell is great, and you can theoretically have a bunch of different, stories involving, Sam Fisher and whatnot. How many things are going to happen to this guy? You know what I mean? Before it's finally like over,
Blacklist was silly because Double Agent was all about Sam's getting older and the controls made him feel older, right? And then Conviction, they rationalized it as, okay, Splinter Cell Conviction, he's off the leash, he's fighting the government, he's going out for revenge for his daughter. So in this time, he sort of gets a spark back because he's going out for revenge, and you can sort of do that. And in Blacklist, it's just, all right, he's 27 again. There's no reason for him to be as fit or anything. But that's why, So if they do another Splinter Cell, like I would love it.
Sam Fisher with a beer gut.
And
Dad bod Sam, let's get
Splinter Cell Blacklist had another Splinter Cell there. And they sort of did like, I haven't played it in a long time, but they sort of had like a protege thing going on.
Okay.
Almost hinting that he was gonna, pass the torch, which would make so much sense. But yeah, I would really hope that, that they can sort of get away from, as awesome as Sam Fisher is, you can still, I think, do Splinter Cell games and get away from these characters.
Sure.
And I would suspect that the reason they don't is because people are so afraid of, well, what if we introduce something new? Is nobody going to like
likes it? Yeah,
and I don't necessarily think
to the old stuff.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think that's true. But anyway,
but that's also, I guess, I don't know, different boons when you create a universe. You can drop Master Chief because there's so many other stories you can tell in that universe. Same with like Star Wars, you can drop those main characters, so many other stories. But anyways,
well, there's no excuse for not having a bunch of stories in Star Wars because
right,
it spans what,
a universe,
60 years and an entire fucking universe plus the time before the movies.
So of course, that makes sense. But Forza 5 showed really great. Forza Horizon 5. Everything in Microsoft was great because I own it all.
Yay!
Because of Game Pass.
Yay!
That's it. Just say, you already own it if you have Game Pass. So that's awesome. Oh, Stalker 2 looked freaking good.
I cannot.
That game
wait
looks
for Stalker
awesome.
2.
And I think people are like not talking about Stalker 2 enough.
Sleeping on Stalker.
Well, Stalker 2's had a really weird history.
Well, yeah,
it was in development hell for what seemed like ever.
Also
since
PC
the first
only.
Stalker came out. Is it really?
Yeah, it's not on consoles. Pretty certain it's not on consoles.
Oh, odd. Okay. But anyway, so it's had a really long, and there hasn't. I've only played the first Stalker game. But the first Stalker game was sort of rough around the edges.
Yes, lots of mods,
but also really unique and in a lot of different ways. And then it spawned sort of that genre, and you've had a lot of offshoots of that sort of Stalker genre, right? That's based in Russian science fiction from like the 70s. So Escape from Tarkov, Chernobylite, Metro, all that sort of stuff, I think has inspirations from Stalker, even if Metro is sort of a totally different thing in some respects. But yeah, I'm excited for
First
it.
one.
What was that? Is it coming for PC as well?
No, Stalker 2 is on everything. Stalker 1 was never on PC. Sorry.
Yeah, yep.
I didn't.
Or Stalker 1 was never on consoles.
Was
definitely on PC.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm excited because it looks really good, but it can also be one of those things where it's really bad, I think. Just because of, I don't know, just because of how long it's been in development, and that's never easy on a development studio or anything like that. Yeah.
Of course not.
Anything else? Any other E3 thoughts you need to get out of your head?
No, Metroid Dread looks great. I can't say anything about Breath of the Wild 2 because they didn't show me anything. So.
Okay. Connor.
So just to piggyback real quick off of E3 news, there's one thing that I either missed or it came out after the podcast. There is another Paradox grand strategy game coming out, and it is called Victoria 3. So Crusader Kings is the medieval era. Europa Universalis is the Renaissance up to the Napoleonic. Victoria is the Victorian era. So
makes sense.
The 1830s up to the early 1900s.
So you play as like Victorian
England,
aristocracy.
France.
You go around to arrange marriages and stuff.
Yep.
Different.
And you can...
It's like Sense and Sensibility.
Classic.
So Paradox style.
Yeah. So, Crusader Kings is about creating a dynasty. Europa Universalis is about creating an empire. Victoria 3 is about maintaining everybody within your empire.
Okay.
And Victoria 2, because we don't know too much about 3, it was down to like setting tax levels for tax brackets and stuff.
Oh my god.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Oh my god.
This is it. This is how we fix the government.
Yes.
We just get a bunch of nerds into a game
Deploy the nerds.
and then extrapolate from
Well,
there.
see, no, because like the nerds will min-max the game,
Oh yeah.
and then you'll have like weird anarcho societies where there's like
move is not
the
to play.
ruling like 0.3%, but it's like everyone's equally wealthy except for like 0.3% of people.
You're right. It's probably not a great idea.
No, don't do that.
Better screenplay idea, as Michael
Yeah.
Scott would say. Well, that's exciting. I did not know this. Okay.
Victoria 3 coming soon. Yeah.
What about games you've played?
So I was gone for half the week last week.
Okay.
I drove out to California. And the previous week I had been having PC troubles.
Yes.
So I got back, more PC troubles.
Right.
Haven't fixed them yet. So I'm probably gonna have to do a OS reinstall. So yep.
I'm sorry.
The joys of PC gaming.
Okay. Well, so I have played a few things. There's a game called Eternal Starlight that came out just a couple days ago on the Quest. It's a fleet game where you control spaceships, but because it's in VR, it's like you're a floating camera, and you can zoom in on your ships and scroll out, and you sort of select them and move them around and select which weapons you want them to shoot and where you want them to shoot them and stuff like that. There's similar games on Steam. There's one, I think, called like Battle Group VR or something like that came out last year. But I hadn't played that one. But this one has been fun thus far. It's not super tactical, as far as I can tell. It feels like a roguelike, kinda, because if you play the campaign, you get one shot to get through the campaign, and if you die, it resets.
One shot, one
And-
opportunity.
Yep, mom spaghetti. And then like every five turns, this super enemy, like a boss fight happens. And so you have 5 turns to upgrade your ship or buy other ships to add to your fleet and upgrade those ships and upgrade the weapons and stuff like that. And then once that enemy fleet comes around, you have to fight them. And if you win, then you continue on. It's fun thus far. It's not, like I said, it's not really super complicated. And I kind of wish that points money came in faster. I understand that. I think the idea behind the game is that it's supposed to be tough. And so there's a randomness there. So, one campaign you may have a ship with tons of great stuff, and then the next campaign,
Nothing.
it's not very good at all. So it's very reminiscent in some ways. The gameplay's totally different. But like FTL, where you find some good stuff for your ship this time around, and the next time it's like your ship's not that great. You're spending more money on repairs than you are on upgrades, So, but I'm having fun with it, and it's interesting because there's a bunch of like fun weapons. You can fire a nuke and it does this huge detonation. And when ships detonate, everything looks really cool in VR. So when ships detonate, it's just this big circle explosion that'll just waft over you and pass by you. You can slow time, and then you can select stuff for your ships. One thing I really like doing is your ship has a teleport ability. So I don't know, if I'm being attacked with a lot of heavy weapons, or if I want to slip behind an enemy, what I'll do is I'll sort of pause time, select the teleport, and then move, like fly through space with it selected in my hand, and then position it. Like, you have to be watching. It's kind of weird to describe this.
Yeah.
To sort of just hold my hand into nothingness and let my hand go, and my ship just teleports right there, which is really neat. So there's lots of fun little mechanics like that. I want to try out the one on Steam, though, because I think that one may be a little bit more strategy and less sort of... And this one, there's strategy. Certain weapons have different characteristics and whatnot, but I haven't run into... It feels more closer to rock, paper, scissors. It's like if I need to know when to use the teleport ability, or I have an invulnerability that makes my ship invincible for like 10 seconds. So I need to know when to use that. But as far as like having a huge fleet of ships and, these ships are logistics ships and these ships do, anti-fighter and these ships are, it's something like that. It's not this far. So I think I want to try the other one.
So real quick, miniature wargaming wasn't enough for you, so you had to get virtual miniature wargaming.
That's the other game that I was actually going to talk about, Demeo. So Demeo is
Demo or whatever. Yeah.
It's a miniatures game, but it's in VR, and it's meant to mimic sort of D&D. And it's played at a 3D. Well, of course it's 3D because it's in VR. It's like a.
I'd love to see something in VR that's 2D.
Well, there are
turn your head, just everything disappears.
Kind of. Anyway, so it's like a.
What? Where'd they go?
It's like a table, right? And it's kind of cool because it's set in someone's basement. So it's supposed to give the feeling of you're going to your friend's house to play D&D or whatever. Is it Demo or
no? Demo is the rhythm game. There's an E between the MO, I think.
Anyway, Connor's googling it. Anyway, so you control little tiny figures, and you basically pick up a figure and move it and drop it, and they have a couple different actions they can do on a turn. There's a couple different characters. There's your ranger, your mage, your warrior, and there's another one.
Yeah, I
think the other one is like a thief that does like stealth
Oculus
tactics.
Quest? Yeah, that one.
But anyway, so you move these people around, and enemies will come after you. And when you do an attack, dice appears, and you actually pick it up and drop it, and it'll roll.
Very cool.
And then either something will happen on top. It's okay. The biggest problem with it is getting comfortable with it because you're
just not ready to be that level of nerd yet.
Because the table has like walls on it. It's not a flat surface, the table, right? So when you're moving through a corridor, there's actually walls and stairs and different tiers. So if you try to set it like at eye level, you're not going to see anything because there'll be a wall there, a little mini wall. So you have to angle it down, which means
it's like you're playing at a table.
Yeah, but it's because you're looking down the whole time, right? And you're sort of aiming down, so it can get a little bit uncomfortable, and you have to... It's not like you can get up and, walk or whatever. I guess you could... I'm not even... And now that I say that, I'm not sure if that would work or not. Anyway, so check that for now. But another thing you can do is try and set the table at an angle to you, almost like you're putting it on a wall. And
play
isometric almost. And so instead of looking down, you're looking straight ahead like you would at a monitor. But the problem there is when you pick up a dude and you want them to go somewhere or open a chest or attack an enemy, you pick up their figure and then you drop it on the enemy's space, and it sort of bounces, and then you're friendly, you do the attack, right? But the problem with that is when you put it up in front of you, you still have to put it on top of them. So if you're moving way up and to the right, you have to put your hand way in the air and drop it on top of them. So it's strange because depending on what you're doing, you may have to move the table, shuffle the table around.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious as to how many people play it and don't get any strain at all. And it also felt like it took a while. I was playing through a quest, and like the first phase of the quest, I'm pretty sure probably took me about 45 minutes. So it's not like a quick,
Mm-hmm.
at least in my short experience, it's not like a quick in and out type of thing. But I think I want to try it out a little bit more. There's some interesting mechanics. Your characters have abilities, but they give it. It feels as though they're given to you randomly. So you have cards in your hand when you turn over your palm, and all these cards appear, and these cards have different attack abilities or whatever. But when you use it, and then your character fills up a gauge, another card will appear. But it's like there's a couple different cards that are different, and then I think there's 1 or 2 cards that are always the same. So there's some randomness there. But I was enjoying what I played, and it was interesting. I'll just have to experiment a little bit more with it. I think that's pretty much all I would like to talk about. So we will get on to the news.
We want to give a massive shout out to the sponsors of this episode. They have been silently supporting us since the beginning, and we felt it was time to give them some love. The like and share buttons have been at our side since episode 1 of the podcast. They can be found right beneath this episode. Please give them a click, it helps us greatly. If you are feeling lucky, click the bell icon to enter for a notification anytime we post new content. You may be surprised by what you get.
Resolution Games has pulled out of the Oculus InGame Ad deal. So this, following Oculus's announcement last week, some background. Last week, Oculus announced that they were going to test in-game ads in certain games, not all games. It was going to be a slow rollout, and they had other studios that were interested, or maybe not interested, but other studios they were going to test with it in future. The game resolution, oh shoot, I don't remember.
Blast On.
Thank you. Blast On was review bombed on Steam and Oculus due to people being angry that they were going to do in-game ads. Resolution Games on Twitter said, quote, "After listening to player feedback, we realized that Blast On isn't the best fit for this type of advertising test. Therefore, we no longer plan to implement the test. As an alternative, we are looking to see if it is feasible to move this small temporary test to our free game bait sometime in the future." End quote.
I still wasn't on board with the whole Facebook ads in the Oculus headset. Just something... Facebook integration into anything just puts me off. But this into the VR headset, it just really puts me off. It's just something about it that it's just 1984-esque to me. It's just like, because Facebook has all your information already.
Yeah.
So they're gonna be able to, get like the ads that you absolutely want, and then you're stuck in VR with it.
Yeah. I've been okay with a lot of the stuff that like the Quest does. The Facebook integration, I couldn't really care about, only because I have a Facebook account. I never use it. So it's kind of like, okay, sure, here's my Facebook account, whatever. But at the same time, in-game ads is something that we, I was going to say we did not sign up for, but we did because Facebook, But besides the games themselves on the Oculus headset itself, if you're going to put ads in it, put them there. Like I like on your home page, like in a, like Xbox does. Xbox has ads like on one of the like homepage squares. So like do that. But don't interrupt my goddamn game that I paid for to, shove me an ad where it doesn't belong. That makes no sense, and it's obvious that it's not for anyone's benefit but Facebook themselves.
Facebook will say that it's another advertising, or it's another revenue stream for developers, right? Which is
bullshit.
Which, if you
believe anything Facebook says, get your head checked.
Well, it makes sense, and I don't know why developers want to do it if it wasn't going to benefit them at all.
the benefit is us buying their game. Like that's the benefit.
Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, because like
all I'm trying to say is that we always come at these things
negatively.
From a developer standpoint, I want to come at it measured, right?
Okay.
Because developers, life sucks as a developer already.
Sure.
So,
yes.
With crunch and with review bombing and with everything else. So it's like if they can find a way to keep their studio afloat and people in jobs and stuff like that, I'm more open to microtransactions and whatnot. Now, yeah, Facebook on the other hand, I have zero sympathy for. Because a lot of the bad stuff that they've done is their own faults, and it's a lot of the same stuff that giant tech companies have had to deal with and haven't dealt with well. It's managing gigantic swaths of data, trying to figure out how to make sure that your site isn't propagating conspiracies or toppling governments or something like that, and no one's done it well. So I don't have any sympathy for Facebook. I do have sympathy for developers that try and figure out better ways to make money. Now, I've said in the past that I'm not totally 100% against ads in games, depending on how they're implemented, what games they're implemented into. There's a billion different prerequisites there.
Yeah.
But I would hate if I was playing a game and it was a single player game and I'm super immersed or whatever, and I accidentally click on some ad and a menu comes up that says, save ad, report ad. Like, I don't want to deal with that. Like, that would bother the shit out of me. So don't get me wrong. I hate the idea. And I also hate the idea that it has to be, listen, if this is another... If a goal with this is another revenue stream for developers, why do you have to pull Facebook data? Why not just people? I mean, if you're not pulling Facebook data, I would assume people would still love to have their ads in games, right?
Yeah.
Are you going to tell me people aren't going to pay you to put their ads in games because Facebook isn't using its data for it? Like, I find that hard to believe. So, you don't have to, in my mind, it makes sense that they wouldn't have to actually have it implemented with Facebook. But these giant companies can't do anything unless it's rigidly hammered together with the rest of their bullshit products. Just like with Amazon, just like everybody else.
They don't want just any ads. They want targeted ads.
Yeah, and that's the
those are effective.
And maybe targeted ads, I would assume they sell more or whatever. They have a higher price. I don't know. I don't know the vernacular. But... I as much as I want developers to have an easier road into making it, especially VR developers, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a good way to go about it. I feel like maybe there needs to be more. Cut Mark Zuckerberg's pay in half. He doesn't need half of that money, and give that to developers. There's an idea. Hey, try that. Anyway, I think go ahead.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because you give an inch and they take a mile, so if we say, okay, you can try, like, I remember when Hulu first started and they had 15-second ads or whatever, and that was it. And now it's just commercials. Like, it's just a minute, 30 seconds of commercials, like 3 times, like during your show, when it used to just be once for like 15 seconds.
And you're paying for Hulu.
Right. And you're paying for Hulu. Right. So if they were to, like, implement those in-game ads, it's like that would be what would happen. And I'm sitting here like ready to, like, I miss when people used to bitch about product placement in like Burnout Paradise or whatnot, like seeing a billboard of like Sprite or something, Yeah. Or
Monster Can.
Right. Death Stranding, like, just did that. And like that, and that was gratuitous and not very well done, obviously.
No, it was horrific.
But like, why can't, like, during a match of Blastion, like or Blaston, like in the corner, like have like a billboard for like a product placement? Like, wouldn't that help them as well? But since they're owned by Facebook wants to put the ads in the game. And if it was like a sports game, I don't know, like it makes sense that like on the breaks you would have a tiny little ad. Like, that's kind of acceptable. But once again, if you allow that, then you allow in the future for longer ads.
And we've seen sports games do ads poorly before.
Absolutely. So I want to be on the side with you Tyler, of if this helps the developers, so be it. But it's not.
Sure.
I highly doubt it's the developers deciding this. It's Facebook deciding.
Sure. Yeah, and you're right. I would be wholly surprised if the developers are calling the shots here with regards to how ads are going to work.
Yeah.
And even then, I think another issue is that finding games where ads are appropriate is difficult.
Sure.
Like, there
That is
isn't a
true.
place in Onward where ads are appropriate, unless you're doing something really distasteful and trying to figure out how to put a Coca-Cola poster, somewhere in a village somewhere or in some city. And
I just put vending machines everywhere.
I don't know. And that,
asset flip.
that would feel weird. I think, product placement is something that is annoying. I don't know. These are all things that I'm sure Facebook's thought of too.
Yeah.
But this cannot be the best solution. And I don't know. I haven't seen if Facebook has made any big announcements regarding this or what. But yeah, I feel like there has to be a better solution. If you're trying to figure out how to make an environment that's more lucrative for developers, there's got to be a better solution. Is it the 70-30 pay cut? Maybe go the Epic route. If you're concerned with developers, go 1288, which I think is what Epic is.
Yeah.
If you're concerned for developers, do that. I think everyone would love for you to do that over. And the other thing that sucks is Facebook's big market share. I think the Quest 2 is really popular because it's cheap.
Very popular, yes.
And it's a nice headset. Like, when I say it's cheap, it doesn't mean it's a bad headset. Like, it's a really nice headset. It has a lot of super nice features. Pass-through is insanely convenient. Tapping the side of your head and you can see around you. Pick up your controllers, put them on. You don't have to... I remember the days back in 20 whatever when I had to look through the nose hole
I'm doing that.
of my
I'm still
Oculus
doing
Rift to find my phone or now if I have my Quest 2 on, I can't answer my phone because you can't read it, but it's not clear enough to read it. But if I have an alarm go off, I can go pass through, swipe my phone because all you have to do is just swipe your fingers and my phone shuts off. So it's super convenient. So it's a nice headset, and they have a big market share. But I hate that a big portion of the VR market is Facebook doing shitty things, right? And all companies do shitty things, but when I put on an index, it doesn't feel like a company is trying to figure out. It felt like a company made a damn good headset. Not, okay, now how do we integrate this into Facebook and blah, blah, blah. Like, that's not the important thing there. Or how do we integrate this into Steam? Even though they did that really well too. But that disheartens me a little bit as a big VR fan, that as the market share grows, these sort of things are going to become more and more prevalent because that's how these tech companies work. And that sucks for VR. Anyway.
Yeah.
You're going to say something else?
No, I'm not. That's I'm done with this.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the Blue Box non-conspiracy. So there's a lot of background here.
Tinfoil hats.
So a lot of background. Earlier this year, a trailer was released for Abandoned, which is an upcoming game by Blue Box. It was a really strange trailer. It's going to be a PS5 exclusive, although it's going to come to PC eventually, so console exclusive or launch exclusive. I don't know.
Timed exclusive.
Timed exclusive. It's going to come to PS5. It claims to have 60 FPS, 4K graphics, so all kinds of really nice things. Not a whole lot is known about it. Soon after, a conspiracy developed that Abandoned was a secret game by Hideo Kojima. This snowballed for a lot of different reasons. One reason is that the game's Twitter handle at one point, and then deleted it, said that the game's real title was yet to be revealed, and that it would start with an S and end with an L. So everyone was like, oh, so it's Silent Hill.
Because Silent Hill is the only word that starts with an S and ends with an L.
Yeah.
So and we won't get into the rest of the conspiracy because there's
a lot to the conspiracy. Yeah.
And I will admit that there's a lot of really crazy coincidences and stuff like that.
Yes.
Go ahead, Connor.
But what if Abandoned is a game about an abandoned Kojima game that was Silent Hill.
Wow.
So
Super meta. That is so meta.
So it's not about Silent
Hills
Hill,
was
but it's
canceled.
about Silent Hill.
Silent Hills was canceled. So anyway, circling back around, while Blue Box denied the entire conspiracy, it continued to grow. This week, Jason Schreier interviewed Blue Box head Hassan Karaman, who confirmed that Abandon has nothing to do with Kojima. Karaman also posted a video on Twitter saying that he isn't an actor nor associated with Kojima. We actually have the audio, and I'm going to play it right now.
Hello, everyone. This is Hassan Karaman. Just wanted to do a really quick video just to show myself that I'm a real person. And yeah, I'm not really associated with Hideo Kojima. Not an actor. Not working on Silent Hill. So yeah, I just wanted to show you guys my face and that I'm real. And hopefully we'll do a QA very soon. Just have to figure out when it would be, and then we'll talk more. All right, everyone, have a good one.
Liana Rupert at Game Informer wrote something that I really like, and I wanted to read it. Quote, "My worry is that the speculation-driven hype surrounding Abandoned will place deep-rooted expectations on the horror game, expectations that will be impossible to reach because the very experience itself isn't what people are assuming," end quote.
This feeds into like the notion that I've been thinking about a lot this last week, actually, since E3. I forgot who said the famous quote. Was it Mark Twain? I don't know. I probably got that very wrong. But what? A lie travels faster than the truth, or something like that.
It sounds like Mark Twain, but I'm not sure.
Anyways, and this is the problem. There is no. People want to be. I don't want to say pranksters, but facilitators of mischief. And so no one is there to stop and be like, hey, can you guys like think for a second? or you know, just like, this isn't what you think it is. But unfortunately, even people who are like in the know, who stop and say like, hey guys, this isn't what you think. Like, it's not like a Kojima game or anything. You still have a mob that is like, no, you're wrong. Nah, it's a Kojima game, you know. And the fandom is, with a lot of aspects of the gaming industry, is not good. And it's really like kind of worrying when other journalists, not like not Liana Rupert, but there was another journalist from IGN. She tweeted, she was like, guys, like you got to stop. Like, this seriously is not a Kojima thing. Like, they are a real studio. This is a real person. Like, but it's just, it keeps going because people are crazy.
So it's a really trick, because even Jason Schreier had some tweets that were like, oh, this is crazy.
At first he was, yeah.
At first. And the studio people were making fake emails and sending out like pre-order. So everything that's nasty on their internet happened to this poor company.
Of course.
Right. And there are a lot of angles to attack this from. Another one is... often, and this is, I think, important about conspiracy theories, people believe them because they want them to be true.
Yeah,
so that says a lot about political conspiracy theories as well.
Not to get political.
But what?
Not to get political.
Everything involved in video games is political.
Yeah. But it's often not because people are searching for truth or think they see truth when no one else does. It's because it's something that they want to be true.
Yeah.
For many different reasons, and sometimes it's just because, you know, how amazing it would be or how crazy it would be if a stunt like this was pulled. And in their, not defense, but things like this have happened before. PT's a famous example, right? But yes, at some point, like, it's at some point, if you decide to say, okay, I don't believe, and then you're tricked, I'm fine with being tricked, than possibly damaging a company's, you know, efforts in creating a video game. And another thing that's strange is Jeff Grubb, who the reporter for GamesBeat, like, we talked about this a month ago. He reported that, and he had one source. And so I don't think I said it in that podcast, but I was like, okay, he has one source who is saying this has nothing to do with Kojima. Who could that source be? You know, and I was like, okay, it feels like that would be Kojima.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know anything about Jeff Grubb outside of some of the work he does, so I don't know if he knows Kojima.
He was the one who leaked the Xbox One Series X stuff.
Oh, really?
And that stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
He's been in the news a lot this last month,
Yes.
like revealing stuff. and
Yeah, we'll
whatnot.
get to him in a second. But anyway, so that was a couple months ago, or at least a month ago. So I was surprised that all this sort of picked up, and that happens on the internet a lot too, where something happens and then like a year later, 6 months later, it becomes a thing all of a sudden,
Yeah.
or a meme or whatever. But yeah, and I think you made an interesting point talking about hype and fandom, because no other industry has something like this. I just don't think.
I don't know. Yeah. No, I mean, it might be deeper because they're not as vocal, but like comic book fans probably have their own subset of things. But as far as like just hype, yeah, no, video games I think is a whole other beast, and that probably has to do with at first YouTube, but now Twitch, just because it's so huge. Like just hype never ends, and no one is there. There is no limit. You know there. Yeah, there's no one there to tell people to stop hyping things. And even if you do, the collective mob just breaks through that barrier and keeps going. And so that's why, I don't know, maybe I don't know how many times I told people before E3 happened, it's like, don't expect anything. Like, don't, you know, and, you know, you still find people who are not impressed with E3 or not, you know, they didn't show what they wanted. It's like, well, what made you think things were going to be there in the first place? Your own narrative that you created up. It's like, just stop and just, you know, enjoy something for when it gets revealed to you. So I don't know what Abandon is. I still haven't even seen that trailer.
It's a really strange trailer.
Yeah, but I mean, they'll show us when the time comes. So why think about it?
Yeah. and this is something that we talk about often too, is like if they're going to announce a new Smash Brothers character, and then all of a sudden 100 people decide, well, it must be this character based on nothing, and then it's character X instead of character Y, and then people are angry. It's like, well, there was no indication that it was character Y to begin with, you know, except for your own hopes and dreams, and that kind of thing happens a lot. And I don't know how to combat, because I think that's sort of a cultural toxin. Like, I don't know how to combat hype.
You just burn it all down. Restart from scratch.
When Cyberpunk came out, you saw a lot of it. It's like, you know, it's one thing to be disappointed in a game. It's another thing. There's like a different level, right? Like, we've all been disappointed in games. Like, it sucks when a game sucks. But there's a whole nother level where it becomes like harassment, or people creating a community for a game. You know, Elden Ring, it's like 10 years ago, there was an Elden Ring subreddit, not that long ago, but as soon as there was a trailer, there was a subreddit, and there was a community, and and it's like, I don't know, I don't want to get angry for people that are sharing interests and enjoying their time on Earth, but at the same time, it's like, I'm not sure how to put it without sounding like a dick. But it's just like, I guess,
excitement
as long
in
as
moderation.
Be excited as you want, do whatever you want, get a tattoo of Elden Ring the day it was announced. I don't care, as long as it doesn't manifest into toxic behavior.
That's the moderation right there.
Toxic behavior toward people that are involved or reporting on it, whatever, right? Like every time Jason Schreier, like when Jason Schreier reported out Fallout 76, right, and he got death threats because he reported that Fallout 76 was a multiplayer game, which it was. But people were so upset that it wasn't what they wanted it to be, that manifested into death threats toward a reporter who ended up being spot on with the reporting, right? So, and in the same way with Abandoned, it's like at some point it's like it's kind of fun, then annoying, then it's getting to the point where the developer has to post statements, try and calm people down. So if it goes any further into toxicity and stuff like that, then it's just another one of those sort of sad, sucky stories that could have been avoided if people just calmed down, you know? They
just need to announce that the game's name is Silent Grill.
That's all. That's you were building that up the whole time.
I was going through different words.
Okay. You like wasn't sure what would be funny instead of hill. Kill? No, that's kind of scary. Anyway, okay. Were you gonna? Sorry, no. Okay. EA Motive is working on a revival of something. So the developer behind Star Wars Squadrons is working on a fan favorite IP. And speaking of Game Beat's Jeff Grubb, during a podcast, he seemed to hint that the project is Dead Space, but there's nothing official. Eurogamer also confirmed that something is in the works, but didn't explicitly say that it was Dead Space. EA Play is July 22nd, and I think it's the last big, thing this summer.
Sony apparently has one next month, but we don't know when.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the rumor going around.
Okay.
So.
Are they going to announce new stock orders?
But as of right now, you are correct.
Oh, okay.
As of right now, you are correct.
So...
It's going to be Dante's Inferno. Watch.
So to piggyback,
Watch, it's going to be Dante's Inferno.
So to piggyback off of speculation and conspiracy theories, let's talk about how this could be Dead Space.
It could be Dead Space. It could be Army of Two.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be a lot of different
It could
things.
be Dante's Inferno. It could be Burnout.
It's just a fan favorite IP.
I forget what Jeff Grubb said, but he used the word dead in a sentence. And it was in a way that it was out of context, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not being
because
conspiracy
Dead Space
theories.
is the only game to have ever used the name or the word dead in its title.
So I get being skeptical, being I don't know, dense is another thing. Okay, so this is not this is not conspiracy territory here. As much as, and I will admit that I do want it to be Dead Space, and I will harass people if it's Dante's Inferno.
Wait, your house is Dante's Inferno.
Yes. But anyway, so get back on the Dead Space. Let's just pretend it was announced as Dead Space, okay? So everybody shut up and pretend it was announced as Dead Space. What are our thoughts on that?
Okay.
Go. Talk about Dead Space.
It better be a horror game.
Okay.
That's it.
As opposed to like a
action shooter.
Action shooter.
It's gonna
Well, I mean, so this is also
it's
another.
gonna be a match 4 puzzler.
Yes.
Match the body parts.
And every time they disappear and it's just dead. Dead. And then if you get them all, space. Sorry.
This is, I guess tonight is talking about fandoms, because this is another thing. Like when it comes to sequels, fans want bigger and better for their next sequels, but you can't keep getting bigger and better. Like
there is a limit.
Yes, and sometimes the best thing is to just stay tried and true. And I think out of the trilogy, in my opinion, Dead Space 2 is the best out of all three of them.
I don't think you're crazy.
It was like Aliens. It was the perfect mixture of action and horror. And there were so many experiences in that game that it's still to this day one of the few games that I have played multiple times, like at least 3 times, because it was just such a good game. But I think that they need to capture that formula again. But this isn't Visceral making it again. It's EA Motive. So they showed that, as far as I know, I haven't played Squadrons yet, which is VR compatible.
Yes, it is.
I haven't played Squadrons, but from people I follow on Twitter who are journalists that were really big fans of the old TIE Fighter games on PC.
Yeah, the simulator ones.
Yeah, the simulator ones. Like, it was exactly what they were looking for, or at least the closest thing they could get to it.
Sure.
So knowing that EA Motive created that, hopefully they understand what it takes to make a supposed Dead Space game. Excuse me. And I would like to see that. It could be Isaac again. That'd be fine. It could be any other character, because I mean, that type of setting doesn't necessarily have to be Isaac's character.
Yeah.
It could be someone else. So.
And the Dead Space story got like weird.
Yeah.
Toward Dead Space 3.
Yeah, it can't just be monsters. There has to be like a cause and
so
everything like that.
And it's interesting that you mentioned Aliens, because I think Dead Space follows. I've played like the first hour or so of Dead Space 3, but I think the Dead Space trilogy sort of follows the same way as the Alien trilogy, right? It's like the first game, incredible, slower paced, much more horror. The second one, action horror, some really cool like action scenes and stuff like that, much faster paced. And then the third one, sort of the odd man out, really bad. And a lot of it, again, I can't speak for Dead Space 3. I can definitely speak for Alien 3, though. No one likes it. Should never been made. And all those things.
Not even the director's cut can save
not even
it.
the director likes it. So yeah, anyway, it's just interesting that you pointed that out. If it is a single player title, I think that will be interesting. Because I wonder if Electronic Arts has, with the success of even if relative success of Jedi Fallen Order. Right?
Oh yes, yeah.
And then
Very successful, man. That is a successful game, regardless of what I think about it. I think I might go through it again. Sorry, I segued there.
And Squadrons was, a lot of people enjoyed the single player in Squadrons. I ended up beating it, and it was fun. It was a fun single player. So I wonder if EA hasn't seen that, like, you can make single player games. Mm-hmm. And I also found it interesting that, because Battlefield said we're not going to do single player, and we're focusing on the thing that we know we're good at. Mm-hmm. And that makes sense because, the previous 3-4 Battlefields have just been, mm-hmm. It's like they just don't know what to do with the single player mode.
Yeah, and the single player modes have always been serviceable. Like, I mean, I've played through them, and I don't
at least
remember
up
anything.
To Bad Company.
Yeah,
but like, well, sorry, I think we're speaking two different things. Sure. You mean since Bad Company?
Sorry, I guess I am speaking of 3 and 4.
Okay, I've never. 4 was one that I played very little of. 3 I thought was okay. But yeah, it was like they never knew what kind of tone they wanted to strike, mm-hmm. or if they wanted, what kind of tone. And then you got to Battlefield 1 and 2. I mean, Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5, and those were stories with script, with mini stories with each with their own scripts and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And those were really bad in some areas. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is, I wonder if EA isn't seeing things as we can't do single player games because, blah, blah, blah. But more so, if we focus our studios toward what they do well, and some of these studios do single player games really well, and some of these studios do multiplayer games really well, mm-hmm. maybe that's the best option.
Yeah.
So
no, that would be an excellent option because you, like you already said, focus on what you're good at, and that's it.
Yeah.
Plain and simply.
Now, as far as if this is Dead Space, I would love. I'm Dead Space 1 or 2. I'm fine with either, because I loved both. I love both, and I think the only one I played through multiple times was the first Dead Space. I think I played through Dead Space 2 once, and then never again. But I really, really enjoyed it. And the first Dead Space was just so damn good. Like, it was. I don't know. It's one of those things you go back to, and it's like a moment. Like, you're like, God, this game, it got so many things right. It did so many things really well. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The way Isaac moved, shooting off characters' limbs, it was really unique in some ways. When you would do little puzzles to get parts of the ship working, and, the gear some part of the ship would start going, and it would get super loud all of a sudden, and it would just unsettle you, even though all it was just a piece of machinery that was like banging together a piston doing something. It was just so freaking cool how they did all that.
I think they should, if it is Dead Space, it would be very cool to have a procedurally generated back end that has a very low chance of spawning. I forgot what they're called. The enemies?
Oh, Necromorphs?
Necromorphs,
yeah. Whoa,
Thank you.
That out of nowhere.
Of spawning a necromorph, a dead necromorph, like somewhere every time that like you'd have to like check to see if he's alive or whatnot. So
yes, I would enjoy that
because you go through the game multiple times, which necromorphs mm-hmm. are pretending to be dead on the floor, but yeah, you can rearrange it, that'd be great.
Yep. Okay. Are we ready for? We have a little bit sounder, so I'm really excited.
Ooh.
Are we ready for tidbits?
Yeah, let's do it.
I already sort of. Anyway. All right. Here we go. A man discusses the news, but not like the big news, the little news. Little bit. This is the tidbits. That's your cue.
I love it. I love it.
The cough. The cough.
Sorry.
The cough is his
Sorry,
reaction.
I had to.
What do you think of that, Richard?
I know.
Sorry.
I had to get my disgust out.
All right, we'll have to do that again.
No, I'm so sorry.
We're gonna have to go off the rails for a second.
I love it. It's awesome, and it's just.
I love it.
It's
all right.
It's very.
Have you ever watched MXC?
Yeah, of course.
Get it on, right? All right.
Yeah.
So there's a scene. There's a scene. You know how they double it over.
Yeah,
there's
of course.
It's so funny, and it's like a couples game where they have to run across the little paddles in a lake, and they have to make it to the other side. Anyway, so one of the dubs they did, you know how people when they walk out will always introduce themselves,
Yep.
you know, and say something random. This one made me laugh so hard. So there's two, like a guy and a girl walk out, and they introduce them, and the guy says, "Don't smoke," and the woman just goes, just coughs really loud, and then they go running. Oh, it was so funny. Anyway, I'm sorry, your cough reminded me of that. All right, tidbits, refocus.
Welcome to the Tidbits. This is where I report on little bits of news and rumors around the gaming industry. So we'll go ahead and get started. This actually was just confirmed today, but Sega is turning Sonic into a VTuber. That was reportedly yesterday, but today they actually confirmed it as part of Sonic's 30th anniversary. They revealed the way he'll look and everything, and Sega says it's another way for his fans to interact with him in real time. So.
I think we all know the next question.
Does his hair have jiggle physics?
When is the OnlyFans?
Hopefully. Oh, yeah. When is the OnlyFans?
Sorry.
Here's my money.
Continue.
Chaos falls upon the subreddit Redfall. It was originally made years ago due to a trademark that Bethesda used for Redfall, the game that was revealed on at E3.
Yep, the vampire one.
Users years ago, when this trademark went up, assumed it was part of Elder Scrolls 6 as a combination.
Speaking of fandoms.
Right, as combining two Elder Scrolls references, Redguard and Daggerfall. Mm-hmm. So everybody was kind of like, oh, yeah. Anyways, Redfall was revealed to be a new co-op shooter from Arcane Studios. The subreddit was set to private immediately and later opened back up with the sticky post simply titled, well, whoopsie daisy. So it is now since then turned into a Redfall subreddit, but lots of embarrassed people there.
Good.
Tencent has acquired a majority stake in Studio Jaeger of Spec Ops: The Line fame.
Yep.
That's all. That's it. Not that important. Final Fantasy IX is supposedly getting an animated adaptation. The series will be developed by Cyber Group Studios in France and aimed towards a younger audience. Hopefully that turns out good if that's true. This one I got today, and this is a big rumor. Ghost of Ikishima is reportedly in development. Industry insiders and leaders today began to talk about the project being in development at PlayStation right now. It will supposedly be an expand-alone title, serving, as the name suggests, a standalone title and an expansion to Ghost of Tsushima. It has been likened to Gears of War 5 Hivebusters, which was released this year as well, and it's also like a standalone single-player experience story, whatever.
Interesting.
Rumored release is this year, and supposedly will be revealed at that Sony thing next month. Apparently, those rumblings started today. And that's all for the tidbits today.
Do we have NPDs?
We have NPDs,
NPD.
which I was not able to get to last week because I was not here. But it was also a busy week, E3 and all of that.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So let's get to the NPDs. I love NPDs, even though a lot of it is the same. I'm sorry, but it's just fun. May 2021 consumer spending across video game hardware, content, and accessories increased 3% when compared to a year ago. That's incredible, by the way. Like increasing 3% from last year when we were in COVID.
Yeah.
Oh,
and people
3%
were staying
on.
home.
Oh.
So this year it's increased another 3%.
Okay.
Beyond that, which is very, very cool. Reaching $4.5 billion. Year-to-date consumer spending totaled $24 billion, a 17% increase compared to the 2020 year-to-date. Damn. May performance experienced a return to year-over-year growth following a slight dip in April. Gains in subscriptions, consoles, PC, and VR content spending drove the positive variance. May 2021 hardware sales gained a 5% increase compared to the prior year.
So VR was in there, huh?
Yep. Yeah, no, VR hit big, in November thanks to the Quest releasing.
Quest 2. Yep.
And everyone's staying at home now. It's a great way to. The app Wander is really, really neat for people. It's like $10 and it put it on, it drops you down in Google VR, like somewhere random.
Oh,
and
they just need to incorporate GeoGuessr into VR.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
I've never heard of Wander before.
Yeah, it's like $10, but it'll drop you down, and it even has, when you're looking at, let's say, like Cathedral, if the Cathedral is on Wikipedia, it'll have the Wikipedia link pop up next to you.
Is Wander the I don't know, game or feature or
it's
program
application
that like Mark Zuckerberg was like showcasing? And it was very distasteful, like not very distasteful, but it was kind of
the hurricane damage.
Yeah,
it might be.
Well, I mean, it's Google and Facebook, two different companies. Well, I assume that was probably a Facebook. Oh wait, no. You said Google Maps?
So okay, all right. Let's back up here. on Oculus on PC, you can just use Google Maps VR for free.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there is an app for the Quest called Wander.
Okay.
Which Google Maps VR is not on the Quest, unfortunately, natively.
Yes.
So you have to use Wander.
Sure.
Sorry.
Okay. Sorry. I do remember that, though, where there was like hurricane damage and they're showing off their VR tech. And it's like, all right, so
wow,
you can
so real.
You can see some of the devastation. This is my avatar. It's like Mark, slow your turbo, slow down, turbo, slow down. All right, anyway, continue with the NPDs. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. It's great joke. Where are we at? May video game hardware dollar sales increased 5% when compared to May in 2020 to $244 million. Year-to-date hardware consumer spending totaled at $1.9 billion, a 36% increase compared to a year ago.
There's got to be... at some point, things have to slow down, right? There's only so much money in the world.
There's only so much money, but there's more people every year becoming, of age.
Well, a lot of our money is becoming virtual. It's not actual physical money anymore.
Yeah,
true.
So there's an infinite amount of virtual money in the world. And more people are getting into gaming every year because more people are being born every year.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So that number, they're just going to grow.
Also, that's not we're not even thinking about all the people who rediscovered video games during COVID,
Mm-hmm.
And it's astounding time we're living in right now.
Time to be alive.
Nintendo Switch, of course, once again, was the best-selling hardware platform in both units and dollars during the month of May, as well as 2021 year-to-date. Nintendo doesn't have to do anything.
No.
They don't have to do anything. You guys
No, they sold cardboard.
I know. They sold cardboard, yes.
They sold cardboard.
And you know what sucks? I can't resell that. Like, I tried. It's not good, man. Anyways.
Send your damn kids to Richard's store to buy that cardboard.
No, I threw it away. The first person bought it, and like it got back to us somehow, and I was like, yeah, I'm not dealing with this anymore. I threw it. Resident Evil Village was the best-selling game of May 2021. Resident Evil Village generated...
Whoa, Resident Evil Village was the best... Oh, Village. Jeez. Okay.
8. Sorry, Resident Evil 8.
I'm thinking... I'm like, wait, is Village like a... I apologize, continue.
Jesus.
Fuck, Tyler,
I'm sorry. I apologize. All right, go ahead, Richard.
It was the best-selling video game May 2021. Village generated the highest launch month sales of any 2021 release to date. And after 1 month in the market, the title ranked as the second best-selling game of 2021 year to date. What would be the first one? Call of Duty, probably.
Yeah.
I forgot to take that data, so I don't have that data. I'm sorry. Days Gone was the 21st best-selling game of May 2021. After placing 247th on the April chart, Days Gone was released to the PC platform on Steam May 17th, 2021, and it shot up to 21st.
Did you ever play Days Gone?
No, I have no interest in it.
Same here. I remember it looking very standard.
Yeah.
Throw rock, zombie goes to the rock. There's a dude there. Zombie kills the dude. Like, it was just very like, I remember that in 2006.
Yeah, I know. It was. We were watching it on E3 and we predicted every movement that happened.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, he's gonna sneak into the bush. Snuck into the bush. He's gonna throw a rock to distract the guard. Throws a rock to distract the guard.
Yeah.
It was very.
What
cut
was that
and paste.
noise?
Yeah. Generic movement animation.
Yeah. I mean, people loved it and it's bestseller. So, I mean, what do I know? I might try it out because I have it, got it for free. I might try it someday. Maybe,
I know
but
I don't want to call it the gimmick, but the thing it had is that all the zombies on screen, running and creating piles and crazy stuff like that, was,
moving like water.
Yeah, it was like what people liked about it. But anyway.
May 2021 spending on video game accessories fell 8% compared to a year ago to $142 million.
People aren't buying that cardboard anymore.
Apt timing. Year-to-date accessory sales reached $1 billion, an increase of 17% when compared to the same period in 2020. And year-to-date sales of steering wheel accessories have gained more than 45% when compared to a year ago. The Logitech G920 Driving Force racing wheel is 2021's best-selling steering wheel year-to-date. And then finally, due to the announcement of Metroid Dread on the Nintendo Switch, several Metroid titles have placed first, second, and fourth on the Wii U top 10 charts.
But not third.
But not third. No, I think that was the Mario game or something. But I would like to say that's impressive. But the thing is, I mean, how many people are still playing a Wii U and thinking, I should buy the Metroid game?
It turns out it's just one guy buying all.
So it's great that it's back in the top top 5, but also considering how many people bought that, that's not too much of it.
It was just one dude, and that was the purchase order. It was Castlevania,
Yeah.
or Metroid, Mario, Metroid.
Yeah.
And yes, Call of Duty is number one.
There it is.
Okay, cool.
Easy.
All right. Are we ready to get out of here then?
Yeah.
Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Gaming Discourse. Go to our YouTube channel, YouTube/Gaming Discourse. We post videos. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
See ya.